Hey there YouTube, I'm going to be bringing you my first deck tech now. This is what I played last week. This was the second week since rotation. As you can see, it is a Reflect deck, and it's mostly red focused with a bit of darkness and water. So fire, water, dark, and it's kind of a tempo based deck. I went 3-1. Came in third place overall, and the match that I did lose was to a really hyper aggressive mono fire deck that I went 2-1 with. It was kind of a coin toss, honestly, although I probably could have played better and maybe found a win in there. But anyway, that being said, let's get into it. So I won't spend too much time on Reflect. Like I said in my other video, he pretty much just makes everything better. All the abilities are useful, although in this particular deck, the +2 is really relevant. So we'll start out with our stone base here. You'll see we have 2 Magic Stone of Scorched Bales, 4 Magic Stone of Hearth's Core, 3 Magic Stone of Moonshade. Got those full arts. Just gives us a little bit of extra fixing. Our life usually isn't a problem. I found that I was pretty happy with 3 of them. It could be bad if we potentially hit all 3 in a row, but generally I thought it was a good mix. And for our last stone, we have a little red, the Pure Stone. This is kind of an auto-include in any fire deck, and really can be useful in almost any deck. Like, we're going to be calling fire nearly every time we play this. Alright, moving on to the main deck. Starting off with 4 Change the World Orbs. This is our only Regalia. It's pretty much an auto-include in any Reflect deck. If you're not playing 4 orbs and you're playing R&R, you're probably doing it wrong. It can just generate a lot of advantage being able to build up counters fast, or untap Reflect to be able to counter multiple spells, or draw extra cards, bounce multiple guys. It's just very, very useful. Getting into our spells, we have 2 Thunder. I actually won this full art Thunder at the tournament. I originally just had 2 of the Vingolf ones. Need to get a second one now. This gives us just a little bit of extra reach if we need to burn them out and we can't quite get there. I definitely did that a couple times. Although generally it's going to be used as removal. You can get rid of their Guinevere or their Cthulhu. It's also very useful against fairies. You can kind of keep their board presence at bay. Next we have 2 Necromancy. This, I'm not totally sure if it was right to play these in this deck, although it's always a great combo with Lancelot. You know, you play your Lancelot, and then this automatically comes back from the graveyard if you've discarded it to another card, which we'll get to. Then all you have to do is use that +200/+200 ability with Reflect, and you can burn something with Lancelot for free and get in there for a lot of damage. So this is a very powerful card. You've probably seen it in like red Necromancy decks that really focus on the strategy. Again, I'm not sure if this was the right thing to be doing in this deck in particular, but I did find it to be useful. Now getting into our 1-drop Resonators, we have 4 Cheshire Cat. Cheshire Cat pretty much makes any deck better. It's really hard to come up with an argument against Cheshire Cat. It's just a lot of value. You know, it can't be targeted. It digs through your deck, replacing itself. It's a free blocker. It is also really good for Incarnate, which we'll see a little bit later on. For our other sort of value 1-drop, we have 4 4 Rukh Egg, and this is another straight up value card. So you just play it early, and you can do a chump block, search for a Lancelot or whatever other. You can chain the Rukh Eggs together just by keep searching for another Rukh Egg every time one dies. If you need to buy yourself some time. This is another great Incarnate target. It also works really well with the next card that we're going to get to, which is our last 1-drop. We have 4 Guinevere, the Jealous Queen. This is a really nice card. You can sacrifice a Cheshire cat to draw 2 cards and then discard 1. Usually you're going to try and discard that Necromancy if you have it in your hand. And the ideal scenario is to play this with Rukh Egg, and you sacrifice the Rukh Egg, go search for another red or fire resonator, and then draw your 2 cards and then discard 1, and you can really get a ton of value out of these. It's also just good for getting a little bit of value off of a resonator that somebody's going to destroy. So if it's going to die anyway, you can just tap this and you can draw some cards with it. Really keeps the gas going. Then we have our 2-drop spells, and we have 2 Space-Time Anomaly. This was a really good card, and I wasn't sure about the exact number of them that I wanted to play originally, but I was really happy with 2. If you draw 1, it's pretty much like you're drawing 2 automatically, because it has Remnant. For those of you who are Magic players, that's like flashback. So really good. As I mentioned, this is kind of a tempo deck, so you can kill their guy straight up, whether it's like a mana dork like a elf, or it's also useful in fairies. I had one fairy matchup, and you can kill 2 of those, or you can even use it as a combat trick to kind of shrink one of their guys. And the fact that it replaces itself with drawing a card, and then you can get extra value by using Remnant from the graveyard to cast it again and then draw another card is just super insane. I wouldn't go overboard on them, just because, like I said, if you draw 1, you pretty much are guaranteed a second one because of Remnant, and so I was really happy with the 2 of them. Then we have 1 Hera. A little while back, before rotation, Hera was pretty much the nuts. I wouldn't fault you for playing at least 3 of them in the main deck. Now it's a little harder to say. I ended up with going just 1 Hera. She's still really useful. Can get rid of those regalia, and draws you a card. Again, it's a big tempo swing. I just wasn't sure so many people were going to be going all in on regalia now. So I just went with the 1, which I was pretty happy with, at least in my local meta. Then we have 4 Lancelot. This is the all-star of pretty much any fire deck. It's kind of hard to go wrong with Lancelot. It's removal, it's fast pressure, it's a decent sized body. It's just a very strong card. As I mentioned, you have the combo with Necromancy, so if Necromancy is in your graveyard, you play the Lancelot, and then the Necromancy automatically comes onto the Lancelot, pumping it for 200, and then you can just pump with Reflect for free for another 200, and then you swing in, and you can burn their guy for 700, and then they take 1,000. It's a very strong card, and was super useful. Of course, you can always pump it up by paying red will, although that doesn't come up too often. It's just a very, very strong, hard-hitting card. Next we have, getting into our 3-drops, we have 3 Flame King Shout. This card performed amazingly for me. It's decent against Alice's World, it's also quite good against fairies. Both of those did come up. It can also just be good against other red decks that also came up. It's really, really good value. If you can kill just 2 creatures with it, you're already ahead. And then its ability to bring in a Fire Resonator from your hand with Swiftness makes this really insane with the next card that I'm going to show you. In fact, this interaction is the main reason why I wanted to play this deck. So next we have 4 Keeper of the Past Uthr. This card is extremely powerful. I would not be surprised if we see this card come up a lot more often in the future. Even on its own, it's very, very good. And like I said, with Flame King Shout, it's just insane. So there were many, many times when I would play a Flame King Shout, kill off one of their little guys, damaging one of their bigger ones, brought in a Uthr, Keeper of the Past, removed cards from my graveyard, and killed their bigger guy, and then swung in with haste for 800 damage. Just in case you're not familiar with Uthr, when it enters the battlefield, you can remove 2 cards from your graveyard, and it deals 200 damage times the combined mana cost of those 2 spells. So you can easily do 1,000 damage to a Resonator, because you can use the Flame King Shout as one of the cards to remove. So you already have a 3 mana spell, and then just removing one other one, such as a Lancelot, or a lot of times you can just use like a Rukh Egg, because you won't need to be able to do more than 800 damage. Especially considering that whatever you're targeting has already been burned for 400 with the Flame King Shout. So this was just a really, really good card. This won me a lot of games. Next we have 4 Adombrali. This is just a really good value card. Again, it gives you that tempo swing. Ideally, we're sacrificing 1 Cheshire Cat and 1 Rukh Egg. So we're getting to search with the Rukh Egg after we've gotten the card advantage from the Cheshire Cats, and then this guy comes in, burns one of their Resonators for 400, and we draw another card. Even if we're not doing that, this is just really good as a free spell. It allows you to build up board presence very quickly. I was really happy with this card, and also combos really well with the last card of the main deck, which we're going to get to in a minute here. So next we have 1 Athena, Titan of Revenge. I'm not sure if this was the right thing to be doing. She is a very, very strong card. We have a 700 swiftness that you can ping both players for 1 red mana, and every time you take a damage, you can put 2 +100/+100 counters on it. So this girl can get really, really huge. She can hit really hard. Theoretically, she gives the deck a lot of reach. Just in the matches that I played last week, it didn't really come up, and so I pretty much found that every time I wanted to play Uthr instead. Of course, I'm already playing 4 of them, but for instance, if I had a choice to choose between this and Uthr from like a Rukh Egg or something like that, I was pretty much always getting another Uthr. That doesn't mean that this is a bad card. It just means that it wasn't the right choice in those scenarios that I encountered. It does seem really strong, so I think I would still keep the 1 in there, but it's possible that this could be plus or minus some amount. For our last spell in the main deck, we have one Valentina Puppet Monarch. This was another reason why I wanted to play this deck, because this combined with Adombrali or Guinevere is really strong. It is a 4-mana resonator, so I'm only playing one of them. You know, it's definitely a slower card, but again gives you a big tempo and card advantage when you play Valentina, take their guy, and then either sacrifice it with Guinevere and draw 2 cards, or sacrifice it to Adombrali, bring that in, get whatever bonus you're getting from Adombrali. That way, if they kill Valentina, they still don't get their guy back. Although, if you know that their particular deck doesn't really have a way of removing her, you can always totally just keep their bomb or whatever it is that you stole and just use it to smash their face with it. I didn't end up using her a whole lot, but I do definitely like having the option of having one of her in there. I can always search for her with Reflect, and could definitely really swing things in your favor in the late game. Getting into the side deck, I have 2 Robe of the Fire Rat. This was extremely good against the mono fire kind of aggro deck that I played against. This hands down won me one of the games, and if I'd been able to go first in the 3rd game, this totally would have won me that game as well. But like I said before, I did end up losing that round. He won the die roll, and one of the games I didn't see any of these. Of course, I can't depend on just getting 2 spells, but just finding these, like in that match, I mulliganed till I saw one, if at all possible. Because it's just an extremely powerful card. It really hoses Lancelot, and it's just generally a really good card. Then we have 2 Barrier of Shadows. This is pretty much against any heavy Regalia deck, particularly good against Valentina 2.0, of course. We had one player at last week's tournament that was playing Valentina 2.0. Is also potentially good against other Reflect decks, and like I said, any Regalia heavy. Then we have 1 Horn of Sacred Beasts. This is just kind of a sort of a multi-purpose card. It's good against people who are doing some kind of Reanimate Yamada combo or Humpty Dumpty setup. Could also mess with Xion potentially, although I'm not really sure I would board it in against that. And in really grindy matchups could recycle your cards. But mostly I had it in here just against random Yamada combos, which is a deck that I actually used to play and is very, very strong. And people started boarding against me specifically because they knew that I was playing that. So you never know when somebody else is going to try and pick up on that. Then we have 2 Dethscythe the Life Reaper. This is a great card against Valentina 2.0, also against Bahamut. So just kind of good to have these so you don't get totally hosed by those strategies. Then I have 1 Illusory Demonic Globe the Earth. You might wonder, what in the world is this doing in the deck? This comes in with the next card, Gil Lapis. So the Primogenitor, I didn't actually have the opportunity to bring it in last week, but the idea is that I would bring him in against anybody playing the Tree and Avatar Alice, because this guy's just really good. So you can pretty much take your time against that deck, and there was one of my friends for sure was playing that, and I think a couple other people were as well, because you can just take their Alice and the sword, and they're going to be in a really bad situation if they're not playing multiples, And even if they are playing multiples, then you at least kind of even out with them. So this is really useful. Some people would bring this in against Reflect. I wouldn't actually do that. Could also be good against Yamata combos. Could you just go grab a Yamata? Although you're probably going to be slower. I don't think I'd actually side that. Then we have one Susan. This is pretty much against Alice's world. It does a lot of work against Gwyber. Very, very strong card. I would not make a fire deck without at least one of these in the sideboard. Then we have one Glimpse of Kaguya. This is a pretty useful card in a lot of situations just as a one-of. You can stop that pivotal activated ability. Then I have two Alice's Pursuit. Again, this is good against Yamata. This is also good against Alice. And, this was kind of a local meta choice. It's really good against certain things, but might not be that useful to some people. Then I have one Prison in the Lunar Lake. This is really good against Izanagi. That was the reason why I put this in here. One player at my local game store plays Izanagi, and it's an extremely powerful card that can definitely win them the game, and this kind of shuts him down. Is probably the best answer to him. So I have one of these. And lastly, I have one more Hera. Again, it's really good against any type of deck that is playing a lot of Regalia. Generates a lot of good tempo and advantage. So that's the deck. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy making these videos. Please subscribe, and I will make another video soon, and see you guys later.